For Lawler.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And I rise, as have previous speakers, to speak to the Tax Laws Amendment Small Business Measures No. 1, Bill 2015, and Tax Laws Amendment Small Business Measure No. 2, Bill 2015. And, like my colleagues, stand to say that I support both of these bills, as Labor supports these bills. Of course, we support the 1.5% company tax cut for small business and the $20,000 accelerated depreciation for small business and primary producers, Deputy Speaker. And we have been absolutely clear about this. As the Leader of the Opposition, Bill Shorten, said this morning, we weren't going to delay for a minute on this bill. And as we made it clear, as Bill Shorten made clear in his budget reply speech, that we supported this bill. But what a farce we've had in the past week. Member after member on the opposite side calling for us to get out of the way and get this done immediately. And then this morning, when we tried to immediately pass this bill at the first opportunity, the government blocked Labor and voted against the urgent consideration of this bill. Deputy Speaker, I came down for the division after listening to approps last night and this morning in Federation Chamber, and member after member from the benches opposite were exhorting Labor. They all had a piece in their approach speech exhorting Labor to get out of the way, to let this go through immediately without delay, member after member after member. And what did I come down for a division for? I was shocked, Deputy Speaker, shocked to find that we were dividing on our move to get this bill out of the way right away at the first opportunity. And I was shocked, Deputy Speaker, because, of course, I'd heard Tony Abbott, the Prime Minister, in question time saying, I say to the Leader of the Opposition, let us not let politics get in the way of economics. Let us not let self-interest get in the way of national interest. Puffing himself up, getting to his last line. Let us pass this bill straight away, leaning across the dispatch box, looking into the Leader of the Opposition's eyes, like there was a problem on our side of the House with this bill. Then, the member for small business, the Minister for Small Business. I always get it confused, whether he's a member for small business or the Minister for Small Business. The small business, thank you very much, Member for Chifley. And he gets up the dispatch box. The only thing that stands in its way is Labor. We need no more of this shiftiness, no more game playing, no more of Labor's blah, blah, blah. Do you know what the small businesses of Australia are saying, Bill? Pass the budget measures. That was the Minister for Small Business. Across that dispatch box, no more game playing, he said. No more game playing. And then this morning we got the government playing politics with people's lives, missing an opportunity of using government to change people's lives for the better, playing politics with people's lives. And then, in a moment of chagrin, we had Minister Pyne tweet, Labor are a joke. Ending the debate on small business won't get the bills to the Senate any faster. The Senate isn't in session. I was stunned when I saw the tweet, absolutely stunned, because, of course, what had he done? He'd exposed his own tactics. He'd exposed the fact that for day upon day we have listened to this. And here he was, the manager of government business, saying, we're playing politics. We can't move it to the Senate yet. So what was the big rush in here? What was the pressure in question time? Why were those opposite not missing one opportunity, not one opportunity to suggest to the Australian public that members on this side, that the opposition somehow had a problem with this bill, somehow didn't support small business? Outrageous, Deputy Speaker, absolutely outrageous. Deputy Speaker, of course we support these measures. Of course we support these measures, because they reinstate sensible Labor measures. Of course we support them. Interesting, though, there was a bit of to and fro today in terms of, well, why did the government block it? Perhaps it's because once upon a time they didn't believe in these measures. In fact, they opposed two of these measures and completely scrapped the third when they came into government. So it's a very confusing day for the Australian public. They're not quite sure what that government stands for. But then again, the electorate's getting used to that. Most days they don't know what this government stands for, because you can't trust this government to do what they say they're going to do. There's a lot of scurry around why small businesses aren't out there borrowing money. The government would like to blame Labor and suggest that somehow they thought Labor were going to block this measure in the Senate. We made it clear that is not what we were going to do. It was made perfectly clear. The reason small business was worried, I would suggest, is that they have learnt that you can't trust this government. They've learnt that this government will say one thing and do another. So they heard the Treasurer in his budget speech say they were going to do this. They may have even seen it in the budget papers. But trust is low out there. Trust is low in my community, Deputy Speaker. It is incredibly low in my community. My community, though, they know where I stand on small business. They know that I know the value of small business, and they know that Labor knows the value of small business, because we spend time on the ground in our communities every day with people who run small businesses, with people who own small businesses and with people who work for small businesses. Despite the brouhaha and protestations from those opposite, Labor members know and appreciate small businesses in their communities and their electorates, because we live and work every day with those people. We stand beside them at the football club. We cheer our kids on with them at junior sport. We share meals with them around our kitchen tables and at community events because, Deputy Speaker, they are our families and our friends, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, in Lalor there are 11,000 small businesses, 11,000. I'd suggest small business is the largest employer in the electorate of Lalor, and many of these are owner workers running a business that allows them to draw a salary. In fact, nearly 7,000 of the small businesses in Lalor have no employees. No employees. In this debate about small business, we should note that many who would once have worked for a company are now companies themselves operating within ABN. Many of them are modest earners, tradespeople working on small margins in the affordable housing industry, retail owners, food businesses, those providing like hairdressing, personal training. As I say, they're operating on small margins. And I might add, many of them, as I've said in this place most recently, many of those in my electorate are drawing very small salaries and are recipients of the family tax benefit. So they stand perhaps to win on the small business measures, but perhaps to have it taken by the other hand from this government off their kitchen table. Deputy Speaker, when I stop for a chat to small businesses, they're concerned about lots of things. They're concerned about staying afloat while they wait for overdue payments, and the cycle that is late payments creating late payments down the line. And what causes this late payment cycle that chokes the cash flow, that threatens the viability and profitability of the small businesses in Lalor? Uncertainty and low consumer and business confidence. That's what causes those cash flow problems, both of which have been festering under this government and its priorities that it's been spelt out so clearly in their first and second budget. Because both these budgets have packed inside them detrimental impacts on our local economy. The debt and deficit emergency damaged confidence, and the cruel measures, the cuts outlined to family budgets in a community already under pressure from low employment levels and job insecurity, means limited disposable income. And, Deputy Speaker, that impacts on our local businesses. People are not buying new furniture. People are thinking twice about getting that landscaper in to do their gardens, thinking twice about starting the renovation, getting their nails and hair done, taking the family out for meals and the movies. So I welcome these measures because they may give a lift to our local economy. I welcome those measures because they might help everyone in Lalor, and everyone who sits on this side of the chamber sees the value of that. However, Deputy Speaker, moving through the electorate over the weekend, I also found there were other views, some those opposite might be interested in hearing. Some small business owners that have low turnover and uncertain work also, as I said, have young families. They're very concerned about the cuts to the FTB. And they've also seen other things, the school kids bonus cuts, the changes to the pharmaceutical benefits. You know, in 2014, at one point it was calculated that the changes to the GP tax threatened $11 million out of our local economy. Now that's still on the table, coming through the back door, so they're worried about that. Because, Deputy Speaker, small business people understand the economy and they know that cuts to the tune of $84 a week to a family earning $60,000 with 2 children is going to hurt their small business. And others aren't sure about borrowing money to purchase because they're worried about what will happen in 2 years. They're worried that this could be a short-term sugar hit and that this government will leave them stranded. They're worried about the risk, that trust factor coming in again. And some of the local businesses I spoke to over the last weekend, they knew that these were Labor initiatives because they had looked forward to those Labor initiatives. In fact, one I had spoken to had to redo his tax return after clumsy handling by the government last year when they didn't believe in these measures, but today they do. Some of them know exactly who they're dealing with in terms of this government. So the local economy is a very big concern for many of the local businesses in Lalor. And I, with those others on this side of the chamber, we really hope that these measures go some way to building confidence in the local economies across this nation, because that will help families, because that will help working Australians. But some others understand a bit more too about this government, and they're worried that they've got limited investment in road and rail infrastructure, and they know that business would be better with less clogged roads. Lots of people in the electoral order are employed or own businesses that work in transport and logistics. They understand what clogged highways mean. They understand that if the public transport was better and if workers were on trains to go to the city and not on the roads next to them, that they might be able to run their small businesses more efficiently. Deputy Speaker, these are important points. Important points. Those in Lalor understand that this government is giving 8% of the infrastructure budget over the next 4 years to Victoria. 8%. 25% of the population and 8% of the infrastructure spend. They're right to feel dudded, very right to feel dudded. And, you know, small business also want employees that are ready to work. And in my area, they are puzzled that the apprentice support programs valued by small businesses that supported our young apprentices locally to get through their apprenticeship with mentoring and support or to buy tools and other equipment, they're concerned that they've been cut. They're puzzled that the Trade Training Centre program has been cut. Deputy Speaker, my community needs a real commitment to education, to skills and to jobs. These measures won't deliver sustained improvement in these areas. This government needs to get to work. It needs to get to work around jobs, around skills and training, around supporting apprentices so they finish, so they complete their apprenticeships without taking on a debt burden. People in my electorate, Deputy Speaker, are very interested in Labor's plans for education and skills, very interested. In conclusion, Deputy Speaker, I would reiterate the economy in my area has been suffering under this government. Businesses in my area understand that when the GFC hit, Labor reacted with stimulus, that a deficit was created to save business, to save this nation's economy. This time, they're asking, are we going into more deficit has this government doubled the deficit to save the Prime Minister's job?